Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys. Let's do that. All-Star Race Weekend, maybe. Actually dealing with rain right now as they try and get some of the qualifying ready in for the upcoming NASCAR All-Star Weekend. And, of course, the following weekend, the Coke 600. But coming off a tremendous weekend at Darlington Raceway as we go inside the fast lane with our good friend Jeff Owens on NASCAR. Jeff, good evening. How you doing?
Hey, Chris, how are you? Doing great.
I'm dry, buddy. I'm in good shape. Much more so than evidently they are up in North Wilkesboro. We'll get into that in a moment, but just overall thoughts about the Goodyear 400, what you saw at Darlington on Sunday.
Yeah, tremendous race. Just a tremendous race all the way through. A lot of fireworks there at the end with those two guys, Busher and Tyler Reddick, getting into it, and Kyle Keselowski gets the victory. Really, really happy to see him win that race. Been about 3 years since he's won one. And, he took a big gamble a couple of years ago. He was with Penske Racing and took a gamble on leaving, going to Roush Fenway Racing as a part owner and trying to revive that team. And he's clearly done that. We saw Chris Busher, his teammate, win 3 races last year, but Keselowski had not won. So really, really good to see him win that race. He's one of the good guys in the sport. And you saw his routine after he wins the race with the American flag. He's a guy that does a tremendous amount for the military, for wounded warriors, and a lot of veterans and stuff like that. Just a super guy, and I think everybody in the sport was happy to see him return to victory lane. And I don't think that's the last you're going to see of him this year. I think that those two Roush teams have sort of got it figured out and got it going on, and I think they're on the verge of stepping up and maybe challenging Hendrick and the Gibbs cars.
So do you believe they are now the premier Ford team?
Well, I don't know that I would put them ahead of Penske at this point. You got Logano and Blaney over there, and Penske's always going to be strong. But I think they're gaining on them, and I think Ford needs that because Stewart-Haas Racing is out to lunch right now. They really don't have much, and they really need to get Roush Fenway going again. That's one of the old historic teams of the, in the history of the sport. Jack Roush won a lot of races, and then they sort of fell behind, due to sponsorship and marketing and various things. And they're trying to revive that program, and Keselowski's made a tremendous impact over there. And I do think they're gaining on it, and I think they're pretty close to being back among the elite teams.
Jeff, I really enjoyed listening to him. You could tell winning at Darlington, it means a lot to a lot of people, but it just seemed like this win for Brad Keselowski at Darlington meant a lot more than his previous win at Darlington. But he talked about how when he and Matt McCall were teamed up, his crew chief, he basically told him, look, this is not going to be easy. Why, in your mind, was it for a guy who's a superstar in the sport, why was it so difficult these past 3 years, and what have they maybe found between that tandem that might allow them to win race after race now moving forward?
Yeah, I think Roush was just way behind. They fell behind. A lot of it was sponsorship. They couldn't pull in the sponsorship money that they needed to be competitive. And then, of course, Jack Roush was a really, really hands-on owner. I mean, he was out there helping build the cars, help tune the engines. He was one of the most brilliant minds in NASCAR. And Jack's in his 80s now. He got a little older. The team just sort of fell behind. They had a partnership with a Fenway Sports Group, and they couldn't really bring the sponsorship to the table that they needed. And then they didn't have the drivers and the engineering, and they just fell behind. And they had some lean years there, and they knew that they were going to have to make a bold move to get back to be competitive again. And they did it by going and getting Brad Keselowski. And Brad is a guy who is not only a great driver, he is a really, really smart guy. He's a very intelligent guy. He's an engineering type of guy. And he was able to come in. He spent all those years at Penske. So he's able to go over to Roush and look at what they're doing and say, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. We need to be doing this, this, and this. And it took him about a year or so to figure all that out. And we saw last year they started their comeback. Chris Busher won 3 races last year, and both of them made the playoffs. So they're getting better and better. Brad was just able to go in and look at things and tell them what they were doing wrong. And he's got them back in a competitive mode really fast.
Chris Buescher had not lost the week prior by an eyelash at Kansas, does he lose his cool, do you think, at Tyler Reddick? Because it looked like Reddick just it was as apologetic as he possibly could have been.
Yeah. Been a couple of frustrating weeks for Chris Buescher, no question about it. Lost by an inch to Kyle Larson at Kansas, and then he comes down, and he's basically got that race won. He ran really well, led some laps, and looks like he was going to win it. And then Tyler Reddick just got a little aggressive, and Tyler did. He admitted it. I give him a lot of credit for doing that. He just made a bold, aggressive move trying to win the race, and the car sort of washed up on him and got loose, and he forced Buescher into the wall. And I don't blame Chris for being upset, but I give Tyler Reddick a lot of credit to stand there and say, my bad, I messed up, I'm sorry. You don't see that all the time. And he did that, and I give him a lot of credit for that. But, yeah, a couple of heartbreaking losses there for Chris Buescher, no question about it.
Jeff Owens in the fast lane with us every Friday talking NASCAR, and hopefully if the weather cooperates, excuse me, Jeff, they may be able to get in all-star qualifying up in North Wilkesboro. Assuming, though, if it continues to rain, what's the backup plan for that?
Well, I don't really know, to tell you the truth. I mean, they'll if they need to scrap qualifying, they can do that, and they can line them up on points because they've got heat races coming up tomorrow, and that's what will determine the field. How the field lines up is these heat races. So they fall back on those tomorrow. Hopefully the weather's not as bad tomorrow, and they can get those in. And, if it doesn't work out and they have to, they'll line them up by points or whatever they figure it out. This is an exhibition race. So, the rule book sort of goes out the window, and they can sort of do whatever they want to line the field up. And the important thing is to get the race in. So, all this other stuff is fun and it's for entertainment purposes and all that, but they'll line the field up however they need to and get ready to go racing on Sunday night, and that's what's important. Hopefully it clears, but qualifying tonight is probably the least important thing we're going to see all weekend. So if it needs to rain, let it rain today, and then they'll figure it out from there.
I don't know that we want to leave NASCAR to its own devices, though. Sometimes that doesn't work out all that well.
That is absolutely the truth.
Is NASCAR banking that the All-Star race is going to be considerably better since they've already announced it is going back to North Wilkesboro next year?
Yeah, I think they're expecting it to be better, and they've made a lot of changes. Everybody knew last year was a little bit of a risk. It was a great event for the historical significance of going back to that racetrack. But the track really probably wasn't ready for that. So they went in after that race. It wasn't a good race. It was kind of a dog of a race last year. But so they went in there and they repaved that track. So that was the first big thing they did. And then they saw what happened at Bristol when Goodyear brought the wrong tire, and it accidentally wound up being a heck of a race. So Goodyear has come in and brought a different tire to North Wilkesboro. They actually have tire options for this race. Mm-hmm. You can use the old standard hard tire that they've been using all year long, or they've got a softer option that you can use, and they also have a rain tire there this weekend. So there's your other answer to the rain qualifying question. They do have rain tires there this weekend. So if they needed to on Sunday night or even tomorrow, they can race these cars on rain tires and probably get through a wet track. They're not going to put them out there in the pouring rain, obviously, but if the track's a little wet, they got rain tires. So different track, repaved, and different tires, and they're hoping that combination is going to make for a much better race than it did last year, and I think it will.
Let you get out of here on this craziest question we'll ask you all season. Who wins this thing on Sunday?
Wow, that's a tough one. Yeah, all-star race, short track, you can sort of, throw it out the window. But, you got to go, I think, with your veteran guys who can figure it out. And I think you start with Denny Hamlin. He's won 2 short track races already this year. So I'd say he's probably your favorite. You throw those Hendrick cars in there. I don't know about Larson because he's up at Indy practicing, and he's gonna be in the All-Star race, but he's gonna have to start last because he's not gonna be there till Sunday. But I'd keep an eye on both the Hendrick guys, William Byron and Chase Elliott as well. I think they'll be in there, but it should be fun. The way these wacky rules work with these things, there's no telling who might win it. But I'd put my money on Denny Hamlin.
Jeff, great stuff as always. We appreciate the time. Enjoy your weekend, pal. We'll talk to you next week about the longest race of the year coming to Charlotte.
All right, Chris, have a good one.
Thanks, Jeff. You too. There's Jeff Owens inside the Fast Lane.